The same haunting scene replayed itself, like a relentless cycle. Titus had been consumed by his divine duties, his heart heavy with a growing sense of unease. Yet nothing could have braced him for the soul-crushing sight that awaited his return to the garden. As he approached, the image of Caramel near the forbidden tree hit him with the force of a physical blow. She clutched a piece of the forbidden fruit, her once resplendent beauty now eclipsed by a haunting mix of desperation and sorrow. Her quivering hands and tear-stained face presented a heart-wrenching contrast to the serenity they had once shared in their paradise. Caramel's heart-wrenching desperation poured out as she pleaded with Titus, her voice cracking with anguish. Though her radiant beauty had dimmed, leaving her face pale and drawn, she remained the sweetest, most lovely girl Titus had ever known. Her eyes, welling up with tears and darkened by sorrow, implored him as she extended the forbidden fruit, her trembling hands revealing her vulnerability. "I've eaten from the forbidden tree," she confessed, her words heavy with sorrow. "I couldn't resist. Please, eat this fruit and stay with me." Tears streamed down her cheeks, tracing paths through the dirt and despair, as she offered the fruit with hands that shook uncontrollably, her plea echoing with the depth of her longing. The sight of Caramel's despair shattered Titus's heart into a million pieces. Memories of their most joyous moments, laughter under starry skies, dreams they had built together and whispered conversations filled with hope, flooded his mind, now bittersweet reminders of what they stood to lose. But these cherished memories were eclipsed by a haunting vision of her future. A desolate existence, exiled from their paradise, where Caramel would face a lifetime of loneliness, childlessness, and unrelenting sorrow, ultimately succumbing to a solitary death. The thought of Caramel enduring such isolation, stripped of their love and warmth, was a torment Titus couldn't bear. The image of her wandering through a barren world, confronting an endless expanse of sorrow and regret with no one to comfort her, was a deep gash in his soul. The prospect of watching her face such unmitigated darkness alone, dying without anyone to hold her or ease her pain, was an unrelenting agony that pierced his heart like a dagger, leaving him breathless and shattered. Though Titus knew that God would eventually provide him with another partner, his love for Caramel was so profound that any promise of future companionship seemed hollow and insignificant. The anguish of losing her was unfathomable, a searing agony that ravaged his soul like an unrelenting fire. The thought of watching her fade into a desolate future, marked by crushing loneliness and unending misery, with the bleak prospect of dying alone and unloved, was a weight that threatened to consume him whole. The sheer torment of knowing she would suffer without the comfort of his presence, the warmth of his love, or the joy they once shared, was a burden that shattered his heart into a million pieces. The prospect of her enduring such unmitigated sorrow, alone and unaided, felt like an open wound that would never heal, tearing through every fiber of his being with relentless ferocity. Tears welled up in Titus's eyes as he looked at Caramel, her desperate plea, "Stay with me," echoing in his ears. Her face, marked by despair yet still the sweetest sight he had ever known, seemed to plead not only for his presence, but for an assurance of shared fate. Titus, overwhelmed by her anguish, took a deep breath and said, "I refuse to let you face life alone, being miserable, childless, and dying alone. I will stay with you until the end." His voice cracked with emotion as he spoke the words, his heart heavy with the weight of his promise, yet resolute in his determination to stand by her side through all of life's trials and tribulations. With his heart weighed down by sorrow and his soul torn asunder by the conflicting demands of duty and love, Titus reached out and took the forbidden fruit from Caramel's trembling hand. As he bit into it, a torrent of realization and anguish surged over him, threatening to consume him whole. The radiant aura that had once enveloped them, symbolizing their purity and grace, flickered out, leaving them exposed and vulnerable. Their divine covering, which had represented their innocence and sanctity, was now gone, leaving them starkly aware of their nakedness and the gravity of their transgression. Caramel's persuasion had succeeded, and Titus had fallen. The devil, having exploited Caramel's vulnerability, had emerged victorious in this round. The garden, once their haven and sanctuary, now lay before them like a desolate wasteland of shattered dreams and broken promises. The weight of their choices hung heavy over them, their love strained and tested by the trials they had brought upon themselves through their disobedience. As the storm clouds gathered, Titus and Caramel stood together, their shared past and the unyielding depth of their love serving as a beacon of hope in the darkness. Though their future was shrouded in uncertainty and foreboding, their bond, tempered by temptation and sacrifice, would illuminate their path through the trials ahead. In that moment, they confronted the harsh consequences of their choices, but they did so as one, united in their sorrow and bound by a love that had endured both the most sublime joys and the most crushing sorrows. The future loomed before them like an uncharted abyss, but their hearts, heavy with grief and regret, beat as one, a testament to the unshakable power of their love, even in the face of shared downfall.